From the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, our Chief Prosecutor, Jerry Jarzinka, and our Sheriff, Gary Schutte. Welcome back to the show.
Hi Bart, thanks for having us today.
Yeah, last time we were all together, we were talking about the, what was it, Drug Summit.
Drug Summit 7 that was held on March 8th, very successful event. We were really pleased with the turnout, just a great program.
So now you're working on somewhat similar event. It's a summit, but it's violence, Prevent Violence Summit.
That's correct, Bart. You know, it's the second summit to reduce violence. You know, last year held our first one, and so this is going to be our second. It's going to be on Friday, April 21st at Jackson College. It's going to be free and open to the public. Continental breakfast and lunch is going to be included thanks to generous support by a number of sponsors.
Gary, what is the value of having the community come together for things like the Drug Summit and the Reduce Violence Summit?
So there's a lot of different things that we gain as law enforcement community from these types of summits. For instance, not too often are people ready to cooperate with us during a violent crime investigation. A lot of it is fear. Some of it is apprehension of the court processes and things that are going on. And what we aim to do in these types of summits is quell a little bit of that fear, to provide an understanding of how law enforcement works and take the mystery away from what exactly is going on during the course of these types of investigations. And it's important to reach out to people to hear what their troubles are so that we can address them, and also to hear what their solutions are. Because frankly, it may be something that we haven't thought about. And these summits provide a vessel for that to occur. It's a very relaxed atmosphere with a very well put together program, academically inclined. People are able to come in, sit down and listen to people who really know what they're talking about, and then engage with them afterward. So I think it's a really wonderful platform and a good thing for the community.
Jerry, do you have cases that collapse or suffer because there aren't the witnesses willing to come forward, or maybe they changed their mind after they've agreed?
You know, yes, Bart. You know, we've historically in my 10 years, there have been occasions where we've had shootings in the city, homicides, and the investigations have been halted because we've had witnesses who don't want to get involved. You know, part of it, that is what the sheriff is saying, that they may not trust law enforcement, they don't want to get involved for that reason. So we've had issues with that, we have.
So it's a trust building event as well as education event.
Right, you know, I think we're drawing upon the success of the drug summits where really it was an additional effort in addition to what law enforcement's been doing, you know, in our community. We're asking the community to get involved with their ideas, their solutions, their skills and abilities. Like the Drug Summit had 6 different work groups. Likewise here, we've got 6 different work groups that's part of the Summit to Reduce Violence. You know, we've got law enforcement, of course, but then we've got family impact, we've got faith-based, we've got health, economic, and also we've got youth and education. So each of those work groups have facilitators, you know, working on solutions from their specific skill set or experience.
All right, well, let's talk about this Summit to Reduce Violence. What's the program? What do you got planned for the day?
Sure, it starts off with registrations, check-in at 7:30 to 8:15. We're going to accept walk-in registration. And then after that, the program starts at 8:15. We're going to have a welcome by Dr. Dan Phelan of Jackson College, and then the mayor is going to note some of the highlights, successes after the first drug summit. Then we're going to jump into our program. We've got a keynote speaker, Dr. Chris Mildy from Michigan State. He's the director of their criminal justice program. There'll be a Q&A with that. Then there'll be a break, and then we're going to we'll have a moderated panel session led by Pastor Corey Pryor. The panelists are going to be people from our community and their experiences with violence that they had and take questions from the audience. Then we'll have a break. and then of lunch, and then we're going to have what's called a breakout sessions where we're going to have our 6 different work groups. You'll have your choice of 6 different ones to attend. It's going to start at the Potter Center, the Dining Commons for the main event, and then we'll walk over to Burt Walker Hall and have 6 different sessions you can choose from. And then it'll wrap up after that looking at the solutions from each of the 6 work groups, and then the sheriff and Director Elmer Hitt will then wrap up the program, and really a call to action for citizens to get involved with the quarterly meetings.
So it's essentially the summit to reduce violence, but it's mostly gun violence, isn't it, Gary?
It is. Most of the violence is centered around firearms, but it's not exclusive to that. It's important to understand that there are other things at play here, in particular domestic violence, which is a real problem, not just in our community, but everywhere, right? And the other issue is mental health. Probably one of the worst problems we have in our community, in my opinion. Just because of the point, or the standpoint that probably 60% of the inmates that I have in my jail right now have a serious mental health issue. And we're dealing with that on a routine basis. And those are the folks that get involved in the violent confrontations. And of course, if you put any weapon in their hand, be it a gun or a knife, probably one of the worst homicides we've had here in the last couple of years was committed with a knife, just over here in Summit Township. So it's the mental health issue that we want to address as well, and that's the focus of the Violence Summit. How do we address these issues, what's appropriate, and how people can become involved in it. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, so give me an example of what, like these 6 breakout sessions, if someone's interested in like becoming part of one, but then taking this further and participating year round.
Sure, it's a good question, Bart. So for example, let's say you're interested in health. It's not only physical health, but mental health. That breakout session you can attend. And then each work group is then going to have quarterly meetings or monthly meetings too, with that group working on solutions, in this case from health or mental health, and then come back to the next summit. So I know that Teshna Thomas of Henry Ford Health is one of the facilitators for the health work group, and they've already scheduled a quarterly work group meeting in July. So the meeting dates will be also listed at the summit when the first meetings will be, based on the facilitators who are going to be running each work group.
Gary, we've got city police, and city has the group violence intervention. How do you, with what they're doing and with what you're doing, is there some dovetailing?
Oh, for sure. And I liken it to basketball and the full court press, right? We're going to do everything we can to make the community more safe. And this is just one component. I'd love to sit back and say, hey, the Violence Summit is why violent crime is trending down in Jackson. But the reality of it is it's everything. And law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's office, the city police, the state, Blackman Township, we're all collaborating together to do this. And I think it's having a positive impact on our community, and I think the statistics are showing it. But having said that, we cannot rest on our laurels, so to speak. We have to continue to press forward, and that's why we need people to come in and participate. It's so critically important to have the community members come in, and I'm hopeful that with your help here today, Bart, we'll get some more interest.
Well, you guys must be really happy, because from what I've seen, you've had some really good turnout at the drug summit and at the first Reduce Violence Summit.
Yes, we did, and we're really encouraged by that, and optimistic that this second summit also is going to be well attended. In fact, just to encourage listeners that the online registration is available. You can use a smartphone to access the QR code to get the registration form, or if you look at the Jackson County website or the Jackson County Prosecutor's Facebook page, it's got both the QR code and a link to sign up. It's easy to do, and if you don't want to do that, we still have the option. You could come the day of the event and register there too.
Well, it's pretty neat because you get breakfast and lunch, and then the full day of programming, and it's extra work for you and your departments to put an event like this on. It takes a lot, doesn't it?
It does, yes. You know, we've been planning this event since last fall, having regular meetings, and it's not just, you know, the sheriff or the prosecutor. We've had the city of Jackson, Chief Hitt, Jackson College, Juneteenth Committee, Chamber of Commerce. They've all been involved. The mayor, County Commissioner John Willis. A number of people have come to the table to plan and make this happen. So it truly is a team effort.
Yeah, when people choose where they're going to live, they check the crime statistics, right?
Sure.
It's an economic, it's a quality of life. I mean, there's so many things that this issue affects and impacts.
Well, it does, Bart. You know, we can just talk about what's happened in recent days with, you know, we've seen mass shootings, and so certainly public safety, you're right, does make a difference in the community you live. You want to be safe, that you can just walk down the street and you don't have to worry about violence like that.
And that's got to be so confounding to you, especially, you know, your department would be responding if something horrible like that happened. But yesterday's, the perpetrator, master's degree, high school basketball star, there was nothing there. It just, you can't predict. It could be anybody.
Well, there are anomalies, right? There are things that are absolutely, how do you explain situations that come up? But what we're looking at, and what the Violence Summit is geared toward, is the things that aren't so subtle, the things that are a little bit more glaring. And when you talk about some of these mass shootings, everybody is saying, oh, geez, you know, I guess I should have probably done something. I saw this happen, or I should have done something here. I saw that happen, or whatever the case may be. And so this is going to heighten awareness with people who see these types of things, and then get them familiar with the system so that they can notify law enforcement and we can take the appropriate actions.
So do you find that people would be more willing to give you a call about a neighbor that's doing something that, because they've become aware of how important their involvement is, are more likely to make that call?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I think
Absolutely.
that's, you know, one of the goals of the summit is to create public awareness, how important it is to be involved.
And that's happened. I know. I've heard stories. You'll investigate a shooting or some sort of incident, and everyone runs. They don't want to talk.
Right. And a lot of that's fear. It's fear of reprisal, right? They don't want somebody coming back on them because they're testifying or telling something about the situation to the police. So a lot of that is something that we have to make sure that we do a better job of easing those types of fears and bringing people in and explaining to them the circumstances and how we can protect them. So that's part of the summit too. And a lot of that is just familiarity. Once they understand what the police are there for, once they understand what the prosecutor's office does and how this all works together, it takes the mystery out of it and it's not as scary.
Well, it's free for all. Everyone's encouraged to attend, and it's happening at Jackson College Friday, April 21st. I'll look forward to attending, and I hope as many of our viewers are able to be there as well. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Bart. Appreciate
Thank you, Bart.
Yeah, and thanks for putting this on.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
The second Summit to Reduce Violence, thanks to Prosecutor Jerry Jarzinka and Sheriff Gary Schutte. Well, next on the show,